pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We will just jump in. The first thing I had on the agenda is public comment. So is there any public comment this evening? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on. The nuisance update. Are we going to do tag team, or whoever wants to start?
Yeah, we have the nuisance cleanup going on starting this next weekend. I've seen a lot of people are already starting to put this stuff on the curb, which is kind of unsightly now, but hopefully it'll be gone by this weekend. I do remind people that they do have to sign up at the chamber office because they just won't drive around and pick it up. We had that problem last year. People were putting it on the curb, and then we had to tell them, no, they're not just going to come pick it up. You have to register at the chamber office. Other than that, officers are out writing nuisance notices leading up to this event, and they have till the 5th to get all those cleaned up. I think that's all I got on the nuisance end, unless there's questions. Maybe we'll go with him, and then.
Have you heard anything from Coonley Apartments?
So we sent a notice out to the Coonley building. I sent them a notice via the old form, which is I text them, but again, they aren't responding to me anymore. So we're doing that. I do have a plan in place to write a citation at the end of those 5 days, but probably we'll try to get it cleaned up before then, and just when we go to court, they won't be ordered to clean it up, but it's better than looking at it for the next 20 days until we get a court date.
Is that just the couch, or?
The couch and the garbage. The awning is, a notice was sent out.
Okay,
But he'll speak on that.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Palmer?
And if this isn't nuisance, let me know, but I have seen various law enforcement agencies on Facebook recently, Marshall County and Marshalltown and Floyd County, posting stuff about ATVs and UTVs and that slow-moving sign that they need on the back.
Yep.
And I drive around town, never seen one yet.
I'd have to look into that.
I'll text you the code on it,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden this
We
just
ran
popped
into
up.
that with lawnmowers and stuff like that, but I haven't seen it on the UTVs.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll send you the
Oh,
code.
yeah.
Thanks.
All right. All right, Mr. Tar?
Okay, I'll piggyback on the Coonley a little bit.
Okay.
I also sent them notice. Reference their awning that's kind of destroyed in the front, looks like a nuisance, their fire escape in the rear of the property. And then I also made reference to our inability to communicate with their maintenance staff to get things done in a timely manner, basically threatening to revoke their basically their certificate for rental housing. We're kind of getting to a point there where it's becoming too big of a problem, and I think we need to sit down and have a real serious discussion, but from my understanding, it's up for sale, so I don't know that they care a whole lot, unfortunately.
Right.
25 6th Street Southwest, staff had worked some on that in between some of the weather we've been having. It's pretty much backfilled. We're still going to top dress that and seed it. I think there might be a few more cakes of sidewalk to take out. We took the sidewalk out there because it was in horrible, horrible condition, plus with the work and everything else we've been doing. So we can have a discussion down the road someday if we're going to replace those or not. 321 5th Street Southwest, the shingles have been removed and the utilities disconnected. The fire chief has the NESHAP paperwork, which was good. There was no asbestos there. We chose to remove the shingles because we can only burn 2 a year with shingles, and we're going to be doing more than that this year, we hope. And we have a 2.5-story that's coming up that we would rather not pay someone to take the shingles off on. Something like that, it costs us a little bit more, so we're trying to save a few bucks where we can. And I think the fire chief's gonna get ready to schedule that here in the very near future. I don't know how quick, but I'm hoping within a month maybe. 121 First Avenue Northeast is the third one. The next one, that is in the system for 657A. I did email the attorney handling this, and I wanted an update last week, but I didn't get it. So as soon as I get one, you'll get one. And then, of course, everybody's been talking about the weather this week, from this weekend. We had a number of out-of-town contractors that have placed signs in the city's right-of-way, in which we confiscated quite a few of those this morning. And then for those contractors that are simply knocking on doors, they've been advised they must obtain a peddler's permit here at City Hall. We've actually had quite a few of them come in and do that today, which is good. And we also notified the radio station to advertise that a little bit more to get our information out in the public. The PD also went to the radio station warning residents of potential scammers, because you always have that with these type of events, unfortunately. And I don't recommend citizens signing contracts and paying deposits to contractors before researching their credentials and speaking to their insurance providers prior. That's really important. I really don't want to see any of our citizens taken advantage of. And we're trying to keep the best close eye on it that we can, you know, but if you have a elderly neighbor or even a young neighbor that might not know any better, you know, maybe just spread that word, talk to your neighbors a little bit, give them some fair warning that that's always a potential after these storms. Other than that, though, I'll answer any questions or concerns y'all may have.
Any questions, Mr. Tar?
Did see a couple of people who had Ring doorbells in their houses, which is very good safety thing with these people just coming to the door and beating on the door, and
Absolutely.
they can at least, you know, from the doorbell I saw, you could see the name of the truck and the company and their phone number.
Right,
That's a good thing to see.
it is. It is. I had reports of vehicles with no identification whatsoever, and definitely want to be avoiding those.
Mr. Lamos?
Get storm sewers cleaned out.
Not yet.
There was standing water on 6th Street Southwest this morning.
We had probably 3 or 4 of those where we've had some issues, but right now I got the guys taking the trees that have fallen and prioritizing that, but we'll get to them as soon as we can. I did have 2 guys out and about getting the lids and stuff cleaned off this morning. They'll continue to work on that this week, but I don't have a whole bunch of guys on that just right yet. I just don't have the manpower.
How about the Becker house?
No news.
Backhoe's gone. All we've had is lip service
Yeah.
for a year. It's getting outrageous.
They did call about where to take some of the trees that are coming out as well. They're going to be taking some trees out, but that's the last communication I had, maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Was that after he was in town, or after in the meeting?
He
Okay.
called me about the tree stuff, but that was it. So I was hoping to see some activity, but they're not there yet, so.
Where was that house at?
That's the one at 140th and Highway 65 South.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Tar, nuisance related? I hear any.
Okay,
Thank you. Mark, step on up. Chief, department update.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update that we did hire Bo Brass of Hampton to be the next officer for the city. And we will bring him to a future meeting to be for formal introductions and then swearing in. But if you saw him running around, I wanted you to be aware that we did hire somebody. We do have somebody on the force, and we will bring him to a future meeting.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So you're fully staffed now.
We're fully staffed now, yep.
That's good. Any questions for Mr. Morrison? All right, moving on. Next item is the road closer for the Grand Festival. I don't think we have anybody here, but
No, Mayor, we were expecting someone from La Luz to come and explain their request and answer any questions that the council may have. And I don't believe anybody is here. So typically, we would put this request on a regular session agenda for approval because it can't be approved at a workshop. They requested tonight to provide information and answer questions, and they aren't here. So we could put it on for Thursday, and hopefully someone will come.
I think it's the same thing we've done in the past, so I don't
Is
think
it the
it's-
same
Yeah,
as in the past?
Yeah.
Exactly?
Yep.
Okay.
I believe so.
the only question I had was the corners here, if they were gonna diagonal them so that people can actually get through them too. But otherwise, they've done that in the past, and so I don't see an issue, but hopefully they'll come.
We'll encourage
Visit with
someone
us.
to represent for Thursday.
All right. So we'll put that on Thursday. Next item is review the draft ordinance, chapter 56 for David, vicious animals.
Yeah, this is kind of update you on the progress of the new code that we'll have to you hopefully on Thursday. Well, we will have it on agenda for first reading on Thursday, but this is just a reminder that the new ordinance is to help streamline the process, and it adds safeguards and impounding for dogs who may appeal that process. The new one allows us to declare the dog vicious immediately. It allows us to impound that dog immediately or dangerous animal, and adds more microchipping to the dogs who have been declared by the city council. It also eliminates some of the meetings because a lot of these dog owners don't want to come to the meeting, they don't show up. And so if they want to appeal within the 3 days, they can and have a hearing in front of the council. The old one, we have a dog bite that happens, we get the info, serve the paper for the potentially vicious dog. We wait till the next council meeting, and they have to be served 72 hours before. So that process can take up to 14 days before the council sees it and declares it vicious. So we're trying to eliminate that. And if rabies is not a concern, the dog doesn't have to be quarantined, which we're also trying to address that with immediate quarantine if it's been declared vicious. We actually have one coming up this Thursday. This one will be done in the old fashion where it's met the criteria. It'll come to the council, and the council decides whether the dog will be deemed vicious or not. We will hear from the owner and the victim, and then you guys will decide. The new one will be available for the first reading on Thursday. Is there any questions on that?
I did have somebody about this dog hearing on Thursday, want to know if they can come and speak on behalf of the dog.
I think we're allowing them to come on public comment if they so wish.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chief Morrison? Otherwise, we will
This,
do our first reading.
this new
Mhm.
new
Go ahead.
vicious animal hearing, is that a dog on a dog?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you make the determination, if the officer makes the determination that the animal is vicious, you can impound that animal immediately according to the
Immediately.
new draft.
Under the
Yes.
new-
So I understand under the old ordinance that we had, there was a process of appeal given to the owners where, when I read this draft, it appears that you're taking away that due process for the owner to appeal.
They will still have the ability to appeal both of those. Under the new one, they will just have to give us writing within 72 hours that they choose to appeal, and they will do that in writing, and then they'll have the same hearing.
But, man, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it sounds like you can impound the animal immediately, where
Yes.
according to the previous, you could not do that. Is that
We
correct?
could, if rabies and it was a dog bite bit a person, we could impound that dog, but if it's dog on dog like this one, and rabies is not a concern, like they've had their shots, there would be no reason to impound that dog, no. But what we're trying to get away from is the last dog we had was dog on dog also, but then we had a very vicious attack in between the time of that dog attack and the new one and the council meeting. So the dog was still out in the community, attacked another dog in a similar manner, and we still hadn't had the council meeting to declare it vicious. We're trying to avoid that.
Okay. I can understand that. I just don't want to see the appeal rights of the.
No, I think
owners
we
taken
were
away.
very careful in writing the ordinance that it allows them still to go to the council and appeal that decision. They just have to do it within 3 days in writing. And we're good about, we'll serve the paper, it'll show their rights. We're in communication with them a lot because a lot of these dogs are near and dear to these people, and so they'll be
Right.
there. What we run into a lot of times is the owners that aren't as good owners, they won't show up, they don't care, they won't ever pick up their dogs. And those ones especially, there isn't really necessary a reason to have a meeting 2 weeks down the road for.
And I hate to play devil advocate, but if you impounded the dog immediately, and it was 14 days before it came before the council for their appeal rights, and the owner of the dog is responsible for that cost for the time it was impounded, but yet if the council says we determined that the dog wasn't vicious,
We did discuss the money portion of that, and I can't remember where that lied in the new ordinance.
Mayor.
Well, I think, yeah, go ahead.
And Bill, one of the key parts of this too was to get that dog chipped. Because so many times I feel that owners brought back, oh, that's the dog's brother, oh, that's the dog's sister, that's the dog's cousin. I think it was the same dog. And I think that'll take care of a lot of that horseplay too. I guess, in the words of Bud Nelson, it used to be, it depends on whose ox is being gored. If that dog bit my dog or bit my child, they wouldn't have to take it to the vet center.
And a lot of people do that.
I kill it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They euthanize it.
yeah,
But yeah, I think the rights are still there. The same
is
appeal process.
responsible for all the expenses related to the impoundment of the animal. But if we declare it not to be vicious, is he still going to be held responsible for that cost?
I'd have to ask the county attorney or the city attorney, but yes, I do believe so. I think that's under both the old ordinance and the new one.
Yeah, I think the way it's written, the animal owner would be responsible, whether it would be after hearing declared vicious or non-vicious. If that's something the council wants to reconsider, we can look into that.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mark, or Chief.
So I guess I don't know, is it going to be ready for Thursday? Do we want to move forward or do
Well,
we
I
want to
mean,
reconsider?
the council can discuss it right now if there's a consensus to, you know, so the only other option would be that the city would incur the expense for the days that the dog was quarantined at the vet if the council ultimately declared the dog as non-vicious. Is that something you prefer to have in there as well?
Going back to a previous case that we had, the dog was not under the owner's control. And I think that's the key there. So the dog was allowed to attack another dog, wasn't under the owner's control. The owner is responsible for that dog. So I think he should incur the expenses, whether or not we deem him vicious or not.
Yeah, I think I'm the same place. There's a reason that dog was impounded, you know, whether it was vicious. We had to make a determination of it. Well, at some point, if you have a dog that was not under your control, which is one of the criteria, and they're ors, not ands, I would say it has to be at no owner's expense, in my opinion.
Is this ordinance drafted after another city?
It's a mesh.
It is. It's a hybrid.
So the only reason that we're actually changing this is to avoid that 14-day layover
Yes, and add the
Adding the
microchipping
microchip.
and the microchip?
and some safeguards to allow us to impound leading up to that meeting. Because we've had some unfortunate events in between.
Okay.
And so far, those dog bites have been dog on dog, but if it was child, you know, that'd be another story.
I mean, we found a dog not vicious once and penalized a 3-block area because everybody had to put their post office box out on the curb. So, I mean, it was kind of a bad deal, too.
Yeah. So any other opinions on that tonight?
Just a
while we're talking
question, we
about it?
were talking about like impounding fees. Is there anything in the ordinance, and maybe we can't require that, like the medical bill, the vet bill?
Yeah, right now they have to do a small claim with the clerk of court. That's the process, yeah.
So is everybody good going with this draft Thursday, first reading, and moving forward? Here's that we are.
I guess it's like, if the dog is, and the owner, they're gonna get penalized if there's no, if it's not declared vicious.
Yeah, the current one also allows that if they didn't have the rabies shot. That's gonna be the difference there. Otherwise, it's gonna be the same.
Yeah, because there's, I mean, part of the description of vicious is if they bit or clawed a person within 2 separate occasions. Well, they could do one, and then they could be declared not the other one. But then, like I said, Jerry alluded to, number 7, and that letter C needs to be controlled by the owner, and that's their responsibility, so.
And I guess the case that I was talking about, I actually voted that the dog was not vicious. I didn't think it was the owner's fault because the dog got out of his tie out in the yard, and the owner didn't know, and the dog attacked another dog and the dog's owner. Everybody else voted that, yes, he is a vicious dog and he needed to be removed or put down. So you can't have it both ways.
Well,
Do you understand what
tying
I'm
the
saying?
dog down, tying the dog up is the owner's responsibility.
Exactly.
If it's not tied correctly and he gets loose and
Right.
you don't know it, it's still the owner's responsibility, in my opinion.
That's where I'm going. I mean, everybody voted that it was still the owner's responsibility, and we
Yep.
deemed the dog vicious, so.
Yep.
And it would be his responsibility to be in control of his dog and to pay for his dog.
Correct.
I don't think the city should have to foot that bill.
No.
And Bill, you'll see as we move along on this, that we'll have dog owners here that haven't paid for a rabies shot for 20 years and never bought a dog license. And, if you don't care that much about your dog to at least get a rabies vaccine or anything like that, you'll see all kinds. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Pat. I just think that we're taking away any due process rights of the owners themselves. Because we allowed them 72 hours, and now, at least 72 hours notice. And you had mentioned about all the mailboxes being closed. Well, if the owner wasn't able to contain that dog, that's where the issue came in for the neighborhood, for the protection of the mailman. But it's the same situation here. If Mark goes to the house and he serves them with a notice of a vicious animal, a possibility of a vicious animal, he's basically telling them, at this point, you're responsible to keep that dog contained until we have our meeting at the council. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's the
And
current
if,
situation.
what would happen, okay, if you served the notice in the old process, and you told the owner, until we talk to the council, you're responsible to contain that animal, and they didn't, what would you do? You'd go back probably at that point, and you would assume responsibility for containing that dog and then impounding him, correct?
If there was a second incident,
if within between the time that you served the first notice and the time that it came before the council, if that dog got loose.
That's
then-
not, that wouldn't be in the code as it's written, no.
No, it's not in any code right now, but,
So no, it wouldn't be impounded. It wouldn't be any different than the first time.
yeah. Okay. I guess I'd go back to my original statement. I think you're taking away the due process of the owner by doing this right away, if you impounded it on the first call. You know, and I hate to say this, Mark, but I mean, it could be a case where somebody didn't like his neighbor and he's going to start making complaints about this vicious dog. And the officer would have nothing to go with but the word of that individual that made that complaint. And as a good officer, you would impound that dog based on the new draft for the protection of the neighbor, who maybe the neighbor just had a grudge, and so he started filing these false complaints. So you see where I'm going with that? And the owner of the dog, which would have nothing to say about it, because under this draft, you could take.
It usually has to meet that criteria that's on here,
Yeah.
bitten, clawed, those. If those things happened, that's what would start that process.
Right.
Not necessarily a neighbor saying,
Yeah.
I don't like your dog.
And then don't you investigate though first before?
Right. We do an investigation, make a determination, and that's going to be the same either way.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Dunn?
I was just going to say, number one in this draft is the investigation. The animal control officer, in his or her discretion, upon receipt of a complaint alleging that a particular animal is a vicious animal, may initiate an investigation to declare such animal as vicious. May. If the chief doesn't feel like, he feels like maybe there's something iffy going on here, maybe a neighbor has a problem with another neighbor and they're making up a complaint, he may choose not to investigate based on what information he's gleaned. So I think there's some discretion up to the officer.
And let's say Bo Brass, for example. First day on the job, runs into a dog situation. He may not know the code exactly, but he's going to refer it to you anyway. The
Yeah.
buck's going to stop with you.
Yes.
In this portion of the deal. So
Correct.
you're going to review all these anyway.
Yes.
Any other discussion around this? Were we kind of in the same park, or?
I guess I would just offer that if the council wishes to have the first reading on Thursday, we can do that. If you want to have it, talk about it at another workshop to discuss it more, we can. It's up
Yeah.
to the council.
So what's everybody's thoughts? Wanna do it this weekend, or week, or do you want to discuss it more?
I don't know, it's confusing a little bit for me.
Ms. Creepy?
I'm ready to move forward. I think the dog and the dog's owner is given due process, whether the dog is at the vet center or at the home. He's given ample warning. He has a chance to go through the system and appeal his case. I'm ready to move forward. We're just trying to streamline this whole
Yeah, I
thing.
think-
And
Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
all we're good. Mr. Lamos?
We've beat this to death for about a year.
Yeah.
I think the main thing was the 14-day waiting period was too long.
Right.
So we have to do something to change that. And this is probably the best way.
You'd be okay with?
Well,
forward?
I hate to be the odd man out, especially the do guy, but I know that if it's the 14-day thing, which I understand, Barry and Jerry, I understand that's a long wait for anybody, even for an injured party or whatever, it's a long wait. But on the other hand, the mayor has the ability to call a council meeting at any time. Am I correct in that? A special council meeting, and could that be called in a situation like this?
We could, yes, if we needed to do that.
To avoid the 14-day period if something came up? Because this, I would think, am I wrong, Mark? Is this a rare thing? I don't know. Is this a,
It's rare.
Yeah.
It's happened twice this year, but
So
not
two
normally.
times this year, I would think the mayor could call a special council and we could make this decision on whether it's a vicious dog at
If
that
we needed
point.
to do that, yeah.
To
we
avoid the
could do that.
14-day. I mean, if that's the only reason for the change.
Right, well, that is
Can I interject?
moving.
Can I say something? At what cost, Bill? Call a special meeting, we all have to come to a meeting.
Okay.
Think of that cost.
Okay, well, that is a cost, but so is the impoundment tax.
Yes,
So
it
if you,
does.
if
And,
that,
and basically, I think what your issue is you don't think it would be fair that the owner would have to pay these expenses.
no,
It's
that's
their
not.
dog, it's their
that's-
responsibility.
That's not, I agree with you, it's the responsibility, but, and no, that's not the reason. I think that his due process is being taken away by the immediate seizure of the animal, if that happens at that point. If Mark knocked on my door and said, Bill, I'm taking your dog, I'd be gobstruck there's not a thing I could say to stop Mark from taking my dog. Whether,
Pending the hearing, no.
yeah, there's nothing as an owner, that's seizing your personal property at that point. It doesn't have to just be a dog, it could be anything. Yeah, I mean,
Which
it
is
could
the-
grow into that.
Just for clarification, is the same process we currently have if it doesn't have rabies, but yes.
If it doesn't have rabies. I can understand that, Mark, about the rabies violation. It's not that, it's the property issue thing, that immediate seizure without due process, it really bothers me. I don't think we should be doing it.
But if you look at it, if there was an incident, you know, the due process would be control your dog. You know, they had that opportunity to do that. They didn't, something happened, now we're moving into the next piece. Somebody's gonna come and get their dog, we're gonna impound it, we're gonna move forward, so.
Well, how many times have you knocked on the door and surprised the owner about this?
None.
They knew.
And I think, and I'm not saying, you know, it's working, don't break, don't fix it, but it's kind of the same we are. We're tweaking a couple things in the ordinance and streamlining it, but it's not been that an issue, it's not been an issue with the Olden's ordinance, so.
Can I
that's-
give
that's
my opinion
question.
now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the safety of the public and safety of other animals trumps the due process part of it. If there's going to be an error, I'd rather take the alleged vicious animal out of the public arena than leave it up to an owner that had a problem with it to begin with, or alleged problem. So I guess I'm ready to move forward to it. Again, I think public safety is a lot more important than the due process for a dog owner.
And when that dog owner takes off out of town and leaves a vet bill, we're gonna pay it anyway.
And then what about the victim, the dog and the family that has to deal with that and have to live with that trauma of having that done?
Because we've seen some pictures that the general public doesn't see in our folders, you know, we can't share them, and they're heartbreaking.
And I think it's terrible that it happens, and I realize pets are a very important part of the family, but again, we can't jeopardize the safety of the public.
The trouble is, there's trauma on both sides, and we have to balance that out. Like you said,
There's consequences.
safety with the public.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And there's no shame in a 5-to-1 vote, Bill. Remember that right off the bat.
Right.
Good
There's
Lord,
such
Barry and
a-
I have had our share of 5-to-1 votes
Yeah.
before.
So right now, we've got, basically, the consensus is, out of 5, is to move forward with the ordinance as it's stated right now for reading on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay? All in, all done. Thank you, everybody. Next item, fiscal year 25 budget amendment. Mr. Dunt.
Thank you, Mayor. So you have in front of you the budget amendment summary. There's a memo and then spreadsheet, 2 pages attached of the proposed amendment by line item. The expenditures are by function. The first one, number 1 is public safety, 2 is public works, 4 is culture and recreation, 6 is general government, 75 is capital projects, and 8 is business-type activities. So you've probably had a chance to review this. I'll just go straight to the spreadsheet. Under public safety, you've got one line item under police department. This is for computers, and they have received a grant from the Barkema Foundation that was not budgeted for, so that's an in and out. And then a large one here is under the fire department, fire reserve, Fund 162, 340,000. We had ordered the fire truck. It was expected to be delivered and paid for in fiscal year '24. It was delayed. It was delivered in this current fiscal year, and so that is to make up for that expenditure. Public Works, this would be street department, some sidewalk installation expenses, and then ADA ramp expenses. And equipment repair, just miscellaneous equipment repairs, sweeper parts, supplies. The majority of that is emulsion, which is the oil substance that is utilized, and chips, rock chips, for fixing potholes with the Durapatch machine. Feel free to stop me anytime as we move through this. And then under culture and recreation, parks, so you'll see there's a wage line item adjustment under parks and cemetery for underestimated wage, and this is attributable to overtime that was either cashed out that was more than anticipated, or overtime that was just simply paid because they're at their max. The Harriman shelter roof had begun leaking a month ago or something, and so it's basically a situation. We had the roofing company look at it and said it needs to be replaced. So we said, okay, we got to have it replaced because we can't have it doing interior damage. So that's part of the amendment. In fact, I think they started on it today, probably complete it tomorrow, so that will have a new roof, thankfully after the hailstorm. Band shell, this is for the middle of the park, the water fountain improvement project that was awarded a grant as well, so that was in and out. And then under the aquatic center, we have $8,000, and we've got part of the slide crack repair, and then a probe replacement piece of equipment. And then other capital equipment, $10,000. That line item also split the slide repair cost, and some funds that went towards painting, and then a safety net that goes around the play structure in the zero depth entry that needs to be replaced. It was basically deteriorated. It had to be removed for the paint job, and then can't be put back because it's in such poor condition. Library elevator, as Susie mentioned during budget, that their elevator needs serious upgrades and to the tune of $10,000, so that's reflective of that. General government, City Hall, equipment repair and maintenance, the Vintage Light LED conversion project, paid for with a Barkema grant as well. And then professional fees, this was a retainer for public financial management to conduct financial models leading up to the pharmacy bond, and then other water and sewer future modeling as well. Wage adjustment for code enforcement, as well as professional fees for nuisance asbestos containing material abatement. We've been doing a lot of nuisance property work, and with that comes asbestos inspection and abatement. One capital project adjustment, the FAA project, which is the runway crack sealing and rehabilitation project that we hope will be completed and paid out of this fiscal year, but we're not sure on the amount that we're going to be having to pay. So I'm recommending that we add an additional $80,000 to that, just to make sure we don't go over budget by June 30th. Business type activities, which includes water and sewer, Water, we had some leaks that staff had a difficult time locating, and to avoid breaking into more street than necessary, we call in a leak detection service to locate more accurately the leaks. We typically budget for leak detection annually in the normal operations budget, but we had to use leak detection more than normal. Also, wage adjustment, again, for the same reasons, underestimated for overtime. And also engineering, Mark Crawford Engineering, finishing up the GIS mapping. You'll see expenses for that under water and sewer. And then under water, other capital equipment, outfitting a pickup. We purchased a pickup truck for the water department, and this is for the light bar, the running boards, the plow, and equipment, overall outfit of the pickup. Sewer, couple of pumps needed to be replaced at the wastewater treatment plant. They're expensive, but you have to have them, and you also have to have spares. Also, miscellaneous contract work. We had sludge removal, which we only incur every 3 to 4 years. The price had gone up substantially since the last time we did it, and so we had underestimated the cost of that. We also didn't realize that we were going to be purchasing 2 pumps in one fiscal year. Operating supplies, the furnace at the old wastewater treatment plant died and had to be replaced, and then additional GIS mapping on the sewer side for Crawford Engineering. Solid waste and compost site. As you know, we're making improvements at the new compost site. What we have left is gates at the entrance and the exit, a concrete pad where we'll have a guard shed, and then the purchase of a shed, and then we'll have to run electricity to that shed. And we're hoping that at this new facility, you know, we have great people that work the compost site. It can be, you know, hot, very hot for them, and so we feel like this guard shed will help give them some shade, and then they won't have to sit in their vehicle and run their air conditioner in their car. So one transfer in and out, this is for the sewer plant loan transfer payment that's made monthly. We had one made in July that we couldn't make in June because of budgeting issue in June, so it was too late to amend in fiscal year '24. We made the payment in fiscal year '25, and now it's part of this amendment. And then on the revenue side, building permits have been down in this fiscal year, so I'm lowering what's estimated to be collected for building permits. And then a number of line items for interest income. We're receiving more interest on our invested funds, and we're showing an amendment for that. Private resources, these are the grants that we received for Vintage Light, and then the Community Foundation as well for computers and cameras at the PD. Miscellaneous fees, you'll see that revenue, that was $37,000. That was the insurance dividend that we received from our property and liability carrier due to good performance and claims. That was a nice dividend to receive, of return of premium. And then the library as well received a Barkema grant. And then the band shell line, that is reflective of the private donations received for the water fountain improvement project. The last one there is $2,000 facade grant that the city received from the Main Street, the Main Street facade grant program. And this is for improvements that the city made on Diana's Place with the new siding on the front and painting of it. Net adjustment would be $563,500. At this Thursday's meeting on April 24th, we would set a date for a hearing on this budget for May 22nd. Are there any questions? Yeah.
The library elevator, wasn't that paid for by the foundation?
Yeah, but it still gets run through our accounting software and budget. You're correct.
The lift station controls, are they all finished?
Doug, I don't know.
I don't think so. I think we still have one that still doesn't have the controls up out of there yet.
Okay.
So at some point we can get to that.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Any other discussions? Everybody's good with the adjustments that we're making, the amendments?
Okay, thank you.
I think we're good. Thank you. All right, next item. We're gonna get out of here. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.